there's this term, AI maturity, which gets thrown around a lot, and everybody seems to have a different definition of AI maturity. How do you think enterprises in specific should define AI maturity, especially when they're trying to move from automation to autonomy?
I think that's quite multifaceted. And when we develop AI strategy with clients, we work with them on a number of different threads. One of which is, well, to develop the strategy with them, to tie that strategy to their business objectives. Having an AI strategy indicates a level of maturity. And then, to what levels are you using AI within your enterprise? Have you got a pipeline of use cases coming in for change in your organisation? That's another sign of maturity, I think. As in, you've got established processes, you're affecting change with AI and have a pipeline of more change.
Welcome to Discover Dialogues podcast, powered by TechDogs. The world of business and technology is evolving at breakneck speed. AI breakthroughs, digital transformation, and game-changing innovations are reshaping industries every day. On this show, we dive into the trends, ideas, and strategies driving the future. We're sitting down with industry leaders, innovators, and disruptors to bring you fresh insights, bold perspectives, and real conversations that matter. So plug in, tune in, and let's discover what's next.
Today on the show, we are joined by Heather Dawe, Chief Data Scientist for UK and Europe and Head of Responsible AI at UST. From early work in software development and large-scale systems to leading data science in healthcare, insurance, and enterprise environments, Heather has seen the evolution of AI from its earliest foundations. With deep experience across data, ethics, and transformation, she now focuses on helping organizations scale AI responsibly. In this episode, Heather shares how organizations can move from AI experimentation to real impact while keeping responsibility, governance, and people at the center. Let's dive in.
Welcome to another episode of TechDogs Discover Dialogues, Heather. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
So Heather, you've had, a career which is, just short of inspiring, if I was to say. You started off in data, then there was ethics, and then there's enterprise transformations, and you've practically seen the evolution of AI from a time where I think data science was just a buzzword. I would love for you to walk our audiences through your professional journey and your early days, and now leading responsible AI at UST.
So I will, thank you. So I've, as you say, data science is something that, well, it didn't exist 25 years ago when I started working. I did a maths degree at university, and I always really, it's like statistics, probability theory was always the thing that really fascinated me in the sort of mathematics space. And when I finished university, I wanted to pursue it further, but at the same time, I wanted to go into computations, programming, software development. I got a job as a software developer for a company that soon I was working for IBM, working on large scale telecom systems, and so that was my first job, my first role, and I was quickly within a year innovating solutions on AS400s. In that space for IBM, working for telecoms companies in Finland and New Zealand, as well as the UK and Europe. That was really interesting. And I spent a few years doing that. And then I moved to the Arcadia Group, again, as a software developer, software designer this time, in what is my kind of home city of Leeds in the UK. So they're a large retail group. And again, I spent some years working, sort of innovating with software again. This was when I was in my mid-20s, so over 20 years ago now. But the thing is, there was still a pull in my head. I very much wanted to, because you're working with big systems and data. I could see if I could connect the data, computational processing of data with statistical modeling, probability theory. I could do some cool things, and this was over 20 years ago now. So I actually took a career change. I went into the UK government statistical service, became a government statistician in the civil service, UK civil service, whilst at the same time I started studying for a master's degree in statistics. So data science did not exist at the time. Okay, so there was no chance to do a data science MSc. I would have done that otherwise. But so I did a statistics master's was a very good course. Very useful for me. And so I worked as a software designer developer whilst I worked as a civil servant statistician in government whilst studying for my masters. After a couple of years of that, I was working in the Department of Health. I moved into the National Health Service, into the central NHS, for NHS Digital, who at the time were the organisation responsible for the management of the data, central management of the data of the NHS. So I spent some time there. Actually, I spent over 10 years there eventually. One of my key roles, within NHS Digital, I built the clinical indicator program team, the clinical indicator program, and we were actually the first the first data science team within the UK public sector. What we needed to do and what I was tasked with doing, and it was kind of combined with some of the studies I did during my master's degree, was take millions of rows of NHS data, process it, filter it, engineer it, and then apply risk models to it to synthesize indicators. So things like hospital mortality rates, emergency admissions, these were all risk adjusted indicators. So this was still over 15 years ago. We developed it's still pretty progressive now. Actually, I had explainability built in back then. It was a SQL driven, incorporated with our system. This was really before Python took off in the data science space. Anyway, so that was a core development. I became a data scientist at that point, and data science really started to exist. And so I was over in the NHS for over 10 years, and then moved. I left the NHS and founded my own consultancy and product development company, a startup, which I ran for 5 years, which was focused on healthcare data science consultancy into the NHS and other trusts and sort of associated companies and services, and then also consultancy and product development in that space. So I spent 5 years doing that, and then decided to make the jump back into industry, and I became a lead data scientist at Hiscox Insurance. I was there for just over a year, setting up the sort of data science teams and services, and then I joined UST nearly 6 years ago now, and I've been at UST for that time, developing and growing our data science AI/ML service into the UK and Europe. And so, my job role now is Chief Data Scientist for the UK and Europe and Head of Responsible AI. So Responsible AI has been a fundamental part of my career, really, and certainly when I started off as a data scientist, going back to the NHS and health, the indicators we were developing, mortality indicators about hospital death rates and things like that, were very sensitive. We needed to ensure they were correct. We needed to ensure they were fair, and we needed to prove that as well. So it's like talking about the explainability. Some indicators, one indicator in particular had 150 different risk models, and we had explainability reporting for all of those different risk models built into our system. So it gave me a really good grounding for understanding why you need to, why responsible AI is kind of required, but also the sort of principles behind it as well. And today that's massively scaled up into what we have today, really, where AI has exploded. And
It has. And would you call that project, as the moment of realization, where you kind of shifted your focus, from being a data scientist, which you are in many ways at the moment as well, but more towards, responsibility in AI?
I'm a great advocate for ethics and using ethical AI and also diversity in AI. There's and so I that's not. I've been like that through my career, but it's fair to say the grounding I got working in the NHS with sensitive data helped me to realise the importance of responsible AI and also so I've got the context for it where, there's still in industry now, there's a lot of sort of realization going on that actually, there's risk associated with AI. And whilst the potential for it is huge, to get the benefits from it in ways that you can be assured that it's not going to go wrong. It's not, going to do things that you don't, adverse outcomes you don't want. Then controls need to be put in place to ensure that happens. That it's still worth it because the benefits are significant, but that it needs to be controlled, and that's really is what responsible. Well, it's quite multifaceted, but that really is what responsible AI is today.
And I think AI has kind of gone from being a nice to have, like, and because of the benefits that it's bringing, to probably a headline topic in most boardrooms. Um, but I think there is also a growing skepticism with AI, right? Because along with this enthusiasm, a lot of organizations are still stuck with pilots. AI is looking great in theory, and maybe still struggles to deliver results. And I think most of the CXOs that I at least have interacted with admit that rather than, they end up being showcases and not business enablers. So how do you think that leaders can shift from AI for AI's sake to AI that's actually driving some sort of a result which is measurable?
I mean, that's a really good question, a very pertinent one, um, because because that's what you just said. We use it. I mean, there's a lot of potential for AI to positively change the ways we work, improve business outcomes in different ways. Just using AI for using AI's sake is not going to bring those benefits. It's taking a focus on what, because ultimately, particularly, using AI in business, you're doing it to affect a change. So, what's your strategy? What's your business strategy? What's your vision for the things you want to achieve with your business? And really, that should be a guide for how you use AI. Because obviously, well, using AI to bring efficiencies in your system, that will be part of your strategy. You'll be able to drill down and find, it's not about tail wagging dog. It's about, the point is there is value to be gained using AI, but you do need, you need to take the business change you're making with the AI, determining the change you're making. There'll be, you should be making a positive change. It should be improving something. You'll be potentially saving money, improving quality, customer experience, etc. So actually, what are you measuring the impact of the AI you're developing, and then developing a series of KPIs that show the value, improve the value. So you're showing return on investment, and like I say, that's not tail wagging dog. That's showing. That's that means that when you implement the AI, you take it to scale. You've proven that it's improving your situation, and you can monitor it and actually measure the benefit you're gaining over time, which will give you a rationale for further investment in AI. Because if you're saving, you know, if you implemented a particular AI server that's saving, service that's say saving you £1 million a year, measuring that and showing the value gives you a rationale for further investment in new AI services, and you do reach a virtuous circle for AI investment and benefit from AI.
And if you were to give a piece of advice, to the boardroom, uh, which is probably debating, the next AI investment, uh, what would you ask them to focus on? What are maybe perhaps the three things that they should look at?
They certainly need to look at the value and ensuring that when it. I'll say it with a smile on my face. It's not enough for the board to tell their leader, their managers, their leaders, affect change with AI. They need to ask the value and also obviously provide the support to actually do that. Um, so the value part, the implementation is important as well. Recognizing that enterprises struggle to produce AI at scale and what it takes to do that, and actually that will need some will very likely need some change within your IT, within your data, within your technology services. And then the third one is the responsible AI angle. I mean, these are the three pillars that are actually challenging, particularly challenging enterprises at the moment to scale AI. Responsible AI, recognizing there is risk associated with not all AI, but some AI, and that you'll need to manage it to avoid any adverse incidents occurring as and when you do put things into production. There's a there's a concern and that the fear of it going wrong is it leading to reticence of actually putting things live, and these things can be controlled, the risk can be managed, and yeah, and you need to do that to gain the benefit and keep it safe and secure.
And building on that, right, there's this term, AI maturity, which gets thrown around a lot, and everybody seems to have a different definition. AI maturity. How do you think enterprises in specific should define AI maturity? Um, Especially when they're trying to move from automation to autonomy.
I think that's quite multifaceted. And when we develop AI strategy with clients, we work with them on a number of different threads. One of which is, well, to develop the strategy with them, to tie that strategy to their business objectives. Having an AI strategy indicates a level of maturity. Um, and then what levels to what levels are you using AI within your enterprise? Have you got a pipeline of use cases coming in for change in your organization? That's another sign of maturity, I think, as in you've got established processes, you're affecting change with AI and have a pipeline of more change. And data is a fundamental thing. Obvious, that's kind of, well, it's, yeah, it should go without saying, but quite often we'll start to have conversations with potential clients, and it will become clear that their data is not ready to do some of the things they want to do with AI. So recognise that data is an important part, and your data strategy and your data management and data quality processes need to be a given standard, and that's another, again, maturity can be measured in that way. And then the technology. I mean, there's different strands, but ensuring you have the technological platforms and the processes set up to manage the production of AI. And then, as we've been talking, AI governance processes, making sure your AI is managed. And last but not least, and so it's quite a list. People change. You're not gonna get the benefits you want from AI unless it's adopted and actually change is driven from ideally from your business, rather than it being being instigated within your business, rather than seeking to push them to change. So that's, I've just gone through a sort of is multifaceted, but you can build out OCRs, KPIs that will measure maturity, measure change, and but importantly, recognizing it isn't obviously it's not just about the technology, it's not just about the data, it's fundamentally about your people, but it's about all these things, and that's at an enterprise level. It's a strategic program of work.
And to your point at the end where we talked about people and leadership, uh, you know obviously, the way I look at it, at least, uh, AI results or AI implementations or projects obviously take time, to show. uh, and obviously, leaders have to do their part to keep their people, their teams motivated. And how do you think leaders can aid to this entire process?
Again, that's pretty multifaceted. I mean, it's the thing is, hopefully the leader themselves have had the support from the executive to, if change takes time. And the thing is, the pressure, there's a lot of pressure to succeed with AI, and so I think you need to evidence as you go that the progress is being made, and change is being affected. Um, and like I say, that value measurement is really important. When it comes to the leader, do you mean the sort of the leader, the traits themselves, or the
Well, it was
practice?
more towards, because, AI implementations or AI undertakings, especially, take a lot of time to show results. And, I mean, they start off as something of a project, but then the actual implementation to results just takes about, could we take about a 6 month window, maybe. And then that there is so much churn, right? And we're trying to do so many things. And because the technology is unknown as well, people are going through loops themselves. So my question was more towards, when you are working in this dynamic environment, how can leaders, aid in keeping their teams motivated? Are there anything specific that you've seen perhaps when you implemented things?
I mean, it's fundamentally. I mean, we're in changing times, and as a leader, to listen and to be aware that people, AI is changing our working, practices around us and with us, to encourage people to well, I mean, it's a UST. We've got significant training programs that encourage people to use AI and embed it into their ways of working, and champion it. Because recognizing that that AI is changing our ways of working, the things we do, and that actually to use it and to engage with AI and to is I mean, it's going to actively be a significant part of our jobs, all of our jobs going forward. Um, so to listen and to encourage that participation, um, and I mean the leadership. I mean, fundamentally, as a leader, I think it's very important to work to enable people to develop as they want to, and within a changing environment, that can be a challenge because you've got priorities on seeking to get if you've got to focus on getting the AI to work, but but yeah, keeping a focus on individuals as who they are and what they want to achieve, and really helping to facilitate that within that can be a challenge given you've got deliverables. We must achieve those things. But I think that the trick to pull is to seek to listen to your teams and to help them to develop in the ways they want to, whilst hitting your deliverables and the outcomes.
And I think beyond the algorithms and frameworks, uh, you know, leadership is also about vision. It's trying to understand um, the power and the limits of technology as well. You've obviously, in your career, mentored teams, you've authored books, and you've also advocated for diversity in STEM. So I think the next one is a more of a personal take, which I would love to understand. If you had to give, you know, a piece of advice to the next generation of AI and data leaders, what would it be and why?
What would it be? It would be to bring your authentic self to work. And what I mean by that is, it took me a long time to have the confidence to do that, because there's whether sometimes it's internal. You feel you must conform to ways of thinking and ways of doing, and in a lot of our jobs that there are ways of doing things that we need to follow, but actually, if we all have the same if we all have the same ideas and do the same things, then innovation is pretty challenging because everyone's doing the same. Nothing's going to change because we're all doing the same thing, thinking the same things. So recognizing that that you as an individual, you're your own self, and to have the confidence to bring yourself to work in that group. I think that's so important, and that in turn, we touched on AI ethics and diversity. That helps us to have a diverse workforce, and actually, I think it will be a happier workforce as well. I know I'm a much happier person since I sort of managed to start to do this more.
No, and that's quite powerful. Is there any specific moment that you would recall personally where maybe a piece of advice that you got guided you personally through maybe a tough leadership decision that you had to take?
I think I've affected the most sort of positive change, positive outcomes when I've, and this is more earlier in my career, really, when I've been supported. I've been an innovator through my career. It took me some years to recognize that that's a sort of trait in me, and because I could just keep seeing different new novel solutions, and it's like, why aren't other people doing it? But so when I was younger, there were times I used to get quite frustrated because so and I think where I'm coming to with this is, I've had a couple of times through my career, like when I was younger. It happens less today, but it's still important, and actually I work to really facilitate it in others, because having a leader see it in me, recognize that I had some, there was the idea I had was very positive, and support me to do it, to champion me to do it. That has been, for me, my career has been transformational, and that's what it's important to reflect, for me to reflect on that and help to others to do the same. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but that it's the people in my career have been, well, some of the people, they've been those kind of circumstances.
Oh, great. You did answer that. And Heather, before we wrap up, we'd love to get to know you beyond the data, with a quick, fun, rapid fire round. These are short, fun questions. Whatever comes to your mind first, completely instinctive. Let me know when you're ready. We'll go for it.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. Morning starter, coffee, tea, or something else?
Definitely coffee. I can't. Yeah, I function much better after coffee.
One destination on your bucket list you haven't visited yet?
Nanda Devi, a wonderful mountain in India, Darjeeling. I'd love to visit and see Nanda Devi.
What's your ideal weekend like?
Ideal weekend is probably a combination of hanging out with my family, my kids, doing the things they want to do, and also maybe some things I want to do, but with them, and then a bit of painting and a little bit of writing, and hopefully, my daughter enjoys cooking. She can cook dinner. That's all good.
One tech gadget you wish existed but doesn't exist yet?
That fires my imagination more than I can say. I suppose, oh, it's supposed to be the tip of my tongue. Some of the things I think are coming, which are the things that will integrate vision, listening technologies with generative AI, and will do things for us that just seemed unimaginable a few years ago. I'm probably being a bit vague there, but wearable devices I think are going to be quite transformational over the next couple of years.
One of our previous guests had mentioned time machine,
Yeah.
so that he could go back and fix whatever he couldn't.
Okay.
All right, talking about time machine, if you could time travel once, where would you go? Into the future or in the past, and which specific moment?
Oh goodness, I would like to go way back to the past, to times where we couldn't read or write, didn't have literacy, and relied on our intuition much more. And I'd like to experience living like that and thinking like that.
We had the CEO of Memgraph come on to the show once, and we had asked him the same question, and he'd answered that he'd like probably try and go way into the future, as against the past if I have it right. And he asked me back the same question. I said I'd probably go back to the time when Newton discovered gravity. Uh,
Okay.
that very specific moment, because apple's been falling from the trees for a long time. What sparked that curiosity is the question I'd probably ask him at that point.
No, I mean, it would be fascinating to be able to see into the future and see, I don't know, I think I'd rather be more interested in seeing 50, 100 years ahead of us than the next 10 years. I think we're going to see huge changes over the next decade, but just, I mean, it's so, yeah, it's moving very fast at the moment.
If you could instantly master any skill not related to your work or professional, what would it be?
Music. I'd really like to be really, probably the flute. Yeah.
A book or a film that inspired you recently?
Um, book called The Living Mountain by Nan Shepherd, who was a Scottish writer, all about the Cairngorm Mountains in Scotland.
I'm going to put that on my reading list.
Very good
And
book.
on that fantastic note, Heather, we'd like to end this episode. Thank you so much for joining us, and talking to us about your profession, about what you're doing at UST. Obviously, talking about how ethics and innovation are perhaps ingrained in you, and everybody should as well. So, thank you once again for joining us today. Any parting thoughts?
No, well, just to thank you, Vikram, it's really appreciate being on here, talking with you today in our conversation. I think it's really appreciated it. And like I say, I think it's a very, I mean, I often say this, but I think I mean, having a reasonably long career in this kind of space, and I don't think I've ever been more excited about working in this space. It's moving so fast, and so many things are happening. So I think that's my last observation, really. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much once again, Heather.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, or your favorite podcast app. Catch past episodes and more at techdogs.com. See you next time.